We get to wait for that 1 minute delay before anybody says anything. But, let's see. This week we end up seeing Lone Survivor, her, and some Hercules shit. Gab was... Gab was, treated to the Hercules movie, but his apparently his listing was wrong and wasn't able to see it. So only Chris got to see it.
Yeah.
Which was...
I have looked for this Hercules movie. Apparently, it doesn't exist in the UK.
Well, we got 2 of them coming out this year, so you'll at least get the other one, hopefully, at some point. So, it's going to be the Battle of the Hercules year. You know, we're going to find out, at least Chris is going to see both. I'll probably see the second one just because, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's in it, and we'll see if he makes this a stinker or a decent movie.
I don't like how IMDb lists the movies you may like if you like The Legend of Hercules, because Captain America: The First Avenger, which I love, but I feel like those movies are on like 2 completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Also, though, if you liked The Legend of Hercules, it suggests you might also like The Lone Ranger, so I guess that works out.
Yeah, that's true.
See, judging a movie, you might like this if you like soul heroes with powers above the mortal man.
Yeah.
That pretty much sums up, like, Rain Man, too.
Oh, Chris, now I told my buddy was going on a blind date to Hercules.
Yeah.
He thought it was alright.
He probably didn't get laid afterwards.
No, he didn't.
But
he wasn't paying attention to the movie. But yeah, sure, whatever. It was okay.
Alright, guys, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of all this. Let's start off with her. Chris, you want to give us the rundown?
Sure. Her is the newest movie from director Spike Jonze. Many of you remember from Where the Wild Things Are and Being John Malkovich. It is the story of Theodore Twombly, played by Joaquin Phoenix. He's a man who works at a company that makes handwritten letters to give to people from one another. You commission a company to write a letter to your wife or something like that. And he's recently just separated with his wife, though not by his decision. His wife, Catherine, played by Rooney Mara. And he is refusing to sign the divorce papers. He is depressed. He's mopey. He's very distraught with the fact this relationship's ended. He's not ready to get into a relationship at this point. And around that same time, he comes across a new product called OS1, which is an operating system that gets added to your all-purpose computer that has an artificial intelligence put into it that grows and learns based off the interactions you have with it. And in this situation for Theodore, his OS is, what is her fucking name? Samantha. Samantha, played by Scarlett Johansson.
I thought you were going to say slutty. I'm like, well, that's...
Well, because I had to look at the IMDb, and then I saw sexy pregnant star, and I was like, what? Played by Scarlett Johansson. Basically, the movie then becomes a love story about him falling in love with this OS, and the OS falling in love with him in return, and how there's the valleys and mountains that happen in this relationship, and then getting into a bit more thesis of man's reliance on technology, the emotional versus the physical connection in a relationship, and ultimately whether or not this kind of relationship can be a tangible thing. Is it a true relationship, etc. There's a lot of different points that can be discussed off of what the movie.
You want to know a little fun fact about this movie?
What's that?
Scarlett Johansson did not do the voice originally for the OS. It was some other actress, which actually makes this good for a better, more amazing for Scarlett Johansson, is that she redubbed the whole thing over the lines of this other chick, so she had to keep the same pace and shit like that to make a very an easily overlay for this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think she did a great job.
Oh yeah,
I liked Scarlett Johansson in this movie. I liked the voice. It was a very good voice. Joaquin Phoenix put in a stellar performance for this movie. He wasn't the normal Joaquin Phoenix where he's like overacting and being kind of goofy. In this he was a believable character. He was something that he's not normally. This is a character I liked. I liked Joaquin Phoenix playing this character. I think other people could have done it, but I think Joaquin Phoenix did it right.
He did a very good job, too, because he essentially has to act human. A lot of this movie completely by himself. Because he's talking to a computer. Obviously, there's no one actually acting in the scene with him. So he still has to display all of the same emotions, all of the same facial expressions of someone who's going through all these different emotions of love. But he has to do it completely alone in a room, essentially. And that takes a lot of work. So I had to give him a lot of credit for that, because it definitely had to be a challenge.
This movie's also set in the future, near future.
Yeah, it's not really defined, but...
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like it's that far off.
No, not in the least.
It doesn't
The
feel like,
technology's not
you know,
all that.
they're not people running around with jetpacks on and like goofy looking clothes. I mean, everybody still looks. It looks like an iPad future.
Yeah.
It's a lot like it's like the hipsters' future. It
Yep.
reminds me of, or at least Joaquin Phoenix reminds me of the hipster future.
Well, it's a weird future when everyone wears their pants at their like above their belly button. Everyone wears their pants like a 90-year-old man would. It's like the one thing I noted whenever I saw, because Chris Pine's in this movie too. Or Chris Pratt rather. There is an excessive amount of cameos in this movie. Kristen Wiig has a voice in this. Amy Adams obviously in it.
I'm amused that Amy Adams' character is just Amy.
Yeah, Bill Hader's in this movie. There's a lot of different like little kind of cameos from people in this. And when the first time I saw Chris Pratt like standing up, he has his fucking pants up to like his stomach, like up past his stomach. I was just like, is this like? I thought it was just that nerdy style that Theodore had. Is everyone in the future fucking wear their pants up there?
Apparently so.
That's like my most Not that there's a fucking universal intelligence that fucking like learns and adapts to everything. It's the fact that everyone wears their pants so high that made this movie unbelievable in the future.
So
Now-
do you not think the fact then that Scarlett Johansson basically already had the scenes acted out for and all she had to do was dub over doesn't take away from her performance?
No, because she had to put her own touch onto the character while trying to keep the same pace as the actress that already did the dubbing.
And she has to make you believe that this is a real relationship. Otherwise, the entire movie would fall apart. And she has to sell that entirely through her voice. This isn't an animated movie. It's not like there's a little animated version of her that at least displays the emotion. She has to carry all of it through her voice.
And
she doesn't say that.
That's where my disconnection for this movie came from. Chris has touched on it. To me, when I watch this movie, I'm hearing a voice off screen. I am not hearing a voice coming from an object that he's carrying around with him. I'm hearing it off screen. I can't connect with that. It just sounds like there's somebody in a booth or off screen talking to Joaquin Phoenix. I'm not seeing the problem. I can't see an emotion. I can't I can feel an emotion, but I'm not getting the tandem.
That's possibly deliberate because it was like.
Well, yeah.
Because they didn't they tried to reconnect you without making it from like a watch or a device, because then it's just talking to him. But basically they wanted it so it was speaking, to the audience, basically him and the audience as the same character. I could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had a terrible
to try and
disconnect
get you
with this movie.
to try and get you into his mindset. Basically, it's talking to you as much as it is to him.
Well, not so much. I never really felt like Samantha was talking towards me. I think anybody maybe watching it might be able to place things that are going on in their relationship as something maybe they've had in a past relationship, but I definitely don't feel like she was ever talking to the audience directly. This is kind of a universal love story in a way, because there's a lot of different factors to Theodore Twombly and his relationship that I really like, and I don't want to get into most of them until we get into spoilers, but there's a lot of very subtle things they do to kind of establish facts that I really enjoyed. And before we get anywhere else, I just need to mention this really quickly. The start of this movie, for about the first half hour, is like a Judd Apatow comedy. It is so weird. The trailer never suggests it in the slightest. But it's the first half hour is like a pure raunchy comedy. It is so bizarre.
What was
there's an actual moment where they're on the beach and they're walking around and Samantha's like, wouldn't it be weird if you had never seen a human body before to see one for the first time? And you kind of wonder, like, how do all those parts meet up together and do all this stuff? And what would it be like if your asshole was in your armpit? And he's like, oh, Samantha, you're so weird. And then he gets a message from her, so he opens his little book, and it's a fucking drawing of a dude fucking another dude's armpit. Just like, I would never have seen the trailer for as many times as I have expected that to be in this movie.
But you know what? It was funny.
It's funny.
It works.
I'm glad it was in there. Never would you have expected it. Like, just the strangest, like, completely missing. Anytime there was a joke in the trailer, it was always like this lame love story kind of joke. Mm-hmm. But when it's actually, like, when you get to the humor in the movie, there's fucking people calling other people pussies and shit. There's like this.
See, this is the thing.
Character.
We've had this discussion last week with the awards about trailers misleading films.
This one's on my list right now. It's like There's nothing in the trailers to suggest this is a comedy even a slice, but the first like 30 to like full hour of the movie is almost more of a comedy than it is a drama. It takes a while to really starts establishing it being a dramatic piece.
Mm-hmm.
What was the budget on this thing?
That's
unknown, I believe.
kind of hard to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking. There's no budget. It only made 260,000 its opening weekend apparently in the US.
It's made 8.
It's 8 million so far. Well, nearly 9 million so far, and it hasn't been released in the UK yet. So we'll see. But
yeah, I will be very interested to see how this goes because I guess a lot of people are probably going to be turned off from the idea of like, look, I don't want a love story of a dude and his fucking
a robot.
So it's just weird. But
are you saying that the general viewing public are robophobic?
yes,
we'll find out when RoboCop comes out.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling it will be.
But no, I mean, my theater was actually pretty packed when this came out. Granted, I saw it opening night, but this was a lot of theater pretty much dominated by couples too. So I actually think this might not be a bad date movie, although you and your date might have a lot of discussions afterwards if you're in even a remotely serious relationship. Stuff gets kind of brought up in this.
The wife and I saw this, and we didn't really have any discussions after this other than, do you think it was weird or not?
You guys rock. I wouldn't expect you guys to, but casual guy is out there, fucking bro dude who's eating popcorn, and his girl's like gets home afterward, and she's like, "Would you let me love other people?" And he's like, "Fuck, goddamn, fucking Spike Jonze."
No, we had more conversations after Lone Survivor than we did this movie.
I mean, there's a lot to discuss, but it would have to get into spoilers. So, I mean, ultimately, I give this movie an A-. I really enjoyed it. It's got great writing to it. The ending is open to a lot of good interpretation. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the characters. I really like the acting in it. Really good set design and cinematography in this one. Really good visual kind of movie. But there's some small little holes here and there. But ultimately, I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a B+, a solid B+ for me. It's a movie that it's not for me, but I understand it.
You can still appreciate it.
Yeah. It's not a movie that, like when I saw it, I'm just, it's got this points where it actually keeps my attention and makes me laugh or something I can be engaged in. But overall, for me, I just disconnected from this movie. But it doesn't take anything away from this movie. I liked it. I think other people should see it, and I think it's a good movie. Yeah, solid B+.
Excellent.
Chris, just do a quick rundown of Hercules, please.
Oh, God. All right.
If you can make it quick, please.
The Legend of Hercules, the story about Hercules, it's kind of about Hercules, but it's kind of more about Jesus and put into Hercules' body. Essentially, it's Hercules played by Kellen Lutz. There's an evil king called King Amperion, played by Scott Adkins, and Queen Alcmene, played by Roxanne McKee. Queen Malkamini, whatever, wants a new son because she's worried her current one's going to be corrupted by her husband's war efforts. So Hera gives her a new son in the form of Hercules, who gets fucked to her by Zeus in a scene where she essentially gets fucked by a thunderstorm, which was one of the most bizarre moments. Essentially, after that, it's just Hercules trying to get back to his fucking kingdom after he gets exiled and sold to fucking slaves in Africa and Egypt. And it's long, it's boring. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep for like 5 minutes during the movie, and there's a really.
And you don't have Gab to figure out if he did or not. No,
I don't. I think there's a really bad special effect at the end too with lightning, where he like has lightning strike a sword and he whips it around like it's like a fucking like a whip, and it's.
My buddy said that was the only redeemable part of this movie. That
whip because it was fucking terrible. It was awful. It just looks.
Well, he liked it. He was like, it was awesome watching it because apparently it kills a lot of people.
Wow, if that's your qualification for what makes a good special effect.
Hey, I am not saying my friend is a good has good taste in movies or anything like that, because he loves the Fast and Furious movies like with a passion. But he was like, yeah, it was cool just watching lightning just breaking everything and killing people.
See, I'm looking at some of the reviews now, and somebody's put down here, this was not only the best 3D movie my husband and I have ever seen, but the best movie by far for this era of film.
Alright.
Somebody needs to be punched in the baby maker.
She's a dumb bitch who's also probably. That's one thing. This movie makes you feel bad for not seeing it in 3D because there are so many blatant 3D shots in this of like, I have a rock and it's swinging towards the camera.
Yeah.
Or there's shit just flying in the back or in the foreground. Like if you had 3D, you'd see the depth in it. I'm just like, I don't.
Oh no, Zayna Kitty in the chat. No, bad.
Call it a thunder cunt.
It's a very long movie. There's nothing uplifting about it. Callum Lutz is fine, but he's completely everything that we kind
Is there
of
at least any boobs?
No, I don't think there are.
According to this, there's no boobs, there's no blood, there's no gore.
This is PG-13. Yes.
Oh damn it! No boobs.
No, not even. It's fucking Grease, and there's no boobs whatsoever.
It's Grease and it's PG-13. That's like physically impossible.
There's Soterius, who's like his friend that he teams up with and like helps escape slavery with. And this dude's hilarious because every time they get into a conflict, this dude immediately needs to be saved. They still try to like create him like he's an equal. Like they get into gladiatorial combats 2-on-2, and like 5 minutes into it, he's like, "Oh, my fallen, save me, Hercules!" It's even like quick. They're like assaulting the fucking Grease, and he's like, "Help, Hercules! I've fallen again!" Or, motherfucker! God damn it!
I've stubbeth my toe.
The paper cutter slaineth me. The castle. No, there's nothing remotely good about this movie. There's a couple moments that are kind of so bad it's funny. Like there's one Jewish guy in all of fucking Greece apparently, and he's like, "Oy vey there, Queen Alcimene. Maybe you could get a new son even. I don't know, but you're basing me for cocktail over here. Oy vey. I need to take a nap."
There's absolutely no one in this film that we'd recognize, is there?
Scott Adkins, I know Fragger was like bragging about. He's
Well-
like, I believe Scott Adkins is in this.
Well, we all know Fragger's a bit wrong in the head when it comes to movies sometimes.
Yep.
So we'll ignore that.
Yeah, we will. I don't know who this Gaia Weeze is. She plays the love interest in the movie. She can't act very well. There's a lot of moments that do come out of like at the beginning that are just like so bad it's good. There's like a moment where she's riding a horse away, and like all of a sudden she just like falls off into the water. Save me, Hercules! There's nothing remotely worthwhile about this movie. Skip it. For the love of God, skip it. And go see one of these other two movies instead.
So what's your final grade for it?
I give this one a D-.
Ooh, D-, so close to an F.
F to me, I feel like, because there's no F plus or F minus. F is just the worst you can get. And I feel like to be F, you have to be offensively bad. And this movie doesn't offensively. It's not.
It would have been offensively bad because it's PG-13 Grease movie. That makes it offensively bad.
It's just boring. That's what it makes it. It just makes it a really fucking boring movie about Grease.
And a legend that doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist in the slightest.
I like how it's called The Legend of Hercules when it has nothing to do with the legend.
No, there's nothing.
That's the most misleading title ever.
It's closer to the story of Jesus, because he essentially is birthed into this world to become the savior for it. He's supposed to lead the world into peace, and there's a scene where he's like chained up against pillars, and he's being declared a false prophet. And you're just like, this is kind of giving me vibes of something. Oh, and anyway, but this one, instead of Jesus dying on the cross, this one he's like, "Father, give me strength!" And he like rips off pillars and starts swinging rocks at people. It's
so he's oh shit, who was the one who pulled the pillars down? Greek
Samson.
mythology. Samson, that's it.
He's like Samson.
So he pulled
It's
Samson.
basically a big butt fuckery of all Grecian and a little bit of Roman legend and lore, basically.
Oh, I'm looking up to see what the director of this movie has also directed.
Probably nothing.
He directed Deep Blue Sea,
Ugh.
Ribbon, 4 episodes of Burn Notice, Cliffhanger, Die Hard 2, and
what?
Nightmare on Elm Street 4: The Dream Master.
Right, so he did a Nightmare on Elm Street 4, he did Die Hard 2, disappeared off the place of the fucking earth.
No, he just did a lot of other stuff that's just all shit that I didn't bring up.
Back to do a Stallone movie.
I wonder
a bad
what
Stallone movie.
fucking episodes of Burn Notice he did. Probably the four shitty ones.
Desperate Times, Shockwave, Failsafe, and Breaking Point. He did them from 2011 and 2012.
Okay, so season 2.
We also did 12 rounds with John Cena.
Ooh!
Oh, and he was a producer on Speed. This guy's just got a great...
He's been everywhere.
He's a producer on what?
On Speed.
Is he a producer on Speed or a producer?
Oh, he was a producer.
Producer of the movie Speed.
Okay.
Who sort of been on the drug Speed while he did it.
We here at Exposition do not take seriously Chris's claims that a director was on speed while filming a movie.
I'm not saying he is or isn't. I'm just saying I'm open to the possibility he was.
You said it. All you need is a good bit of editing, and you said he was on speed, man.
No, you don't have to edit that. He said the producer of Speed.
Well, I mean, these things happen. Do so.
And all this whole time he's listening going, fuck, they know. I need to move my mobile meth lab.
The jig's up.
I don't think meth
Don't
is
tell me
speed,
Breaking
though.
Bad turns out to be a real true story.
Yeah, about this director. Okay, let's move on from
Approve.
from shit to a good let's say a good movie with Lone Survivor. Chris, go ahead and run it now.
Lone Survivor is based off the true story of Operation Red Wings, which was a mission in 2005 where 4 members of a Navy SEAL Team 10 were tasked with capturing the Taliban leader Ahmed Saad. Or Said. What was his name?
Saha.
Well, were tasked with capturing him, and as you can guess from the title, things don't go very well for them.
Yeah, things don't go anywhere near well for them.
No, not
For me, this movie, let's come out with it. This movie's amazing. 100% seriousness, this movie is amazing. This is going to be a really hard contender for me to automatically push Godzilla to Best Movie of the Year because of this.
Godzilla, which you haven't even seen yet.
Yeah.
You're still already ready to give it the award.
This is the first film you've seen this year.
In January, without having seen it, you're still ready to be like, all right, come on up, Godzilla. Here you go, buddy.
This is an insane movie. It's... I don't know how to really describe it. I mean, there's a fuck ton of suspense in this movie. Even though you know the name is Lone Survivor, there's a lot of suspense in this movie.
Events, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody thinks, a lot of the reviews, Chris and I were talking about this before the show, a lot of the reviews are talking about how this is a pro-military movie because it is done by the director of... this is Peter Berg's movie. This is his next movie after he did not Pacific Rim, but Battleship. So I think most people are riding the high of, the pro-American military thing, this is basically a hand job to the military. It is not in the least.
Now, as I said, I cannot imagine someone who would see this movie and be like, I can't wait to join the military after this, because it's not a very uplifting piece. You're not going to be like, God, I can't wait to do those things. Get fucking all my bones broken and shot 7 times.
Yeah. It's a sobering movie to what people in the service, have to go through sometimes. I can't relate exactly to their problem or what they've gone through, but I can understand it fully. I mean, I've been in situations that are not quite similar to it, but that are like it.
Equally as harrowing.
Where you're completely outnumbered and you're basically forced to just keep going backwards. Yeah. I loved it. The acting is fucking superb in this movie. I think Chris and I both had a problem with maybe going into this movie, because it's Mark Wahlberg, and you might have the issue of just keep seeing Mark Wahlberg in this movie. I lost that pretty early into the movie.
He's great for the start.
Yeah. I stopped seeing Mark Wahlberg. I started seeing a soldier just because of the fact that he doesn't look like Mark Wahlberg. At least I don't think so.
No, he doesn't. He definitely kind of blends into the role he's getting into.
As far as realism goes, it's damn good, damn close. I had a couple of problems with pink mist, something I won't get into, but guns sounded right, tactics looked right. They had a SEAL actually on site for all the combat scenes, which is thumbs up to them for that.
Well, according to the background stuff I'm reading here, they basically had almost every extra in a military uniform was a SEAL veteran. They got the military's a lot of involvement with them for this whole project.
Yeah, I was actually looking through a couple of the cast, and seeing that some of them were ex-military. By the way,
in fact, the guy who actually this is based on is actually in this film as well. He gets a little cameo.
Yeah.
I didn't see him. Where was he?
Apparently, there's a scene where there's a guy in uniform spills his coffee and yells at a rookie to clean it up.
Yeah, that's him. It's the fat-faced Marine at the beginning at the table.
Oh, holy shit!
Or SEAL team, rather. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's see. Ben Foster, who plays Matt Axelson, is amazing in this film.
He's incredible. I actually looked this up. Axelson's mother, I think her Diana or Donna, after this was done, they went to a preview screening, and she texted Ben Foster afterward and said, "You did a really good job portraying Matthew. Thank you for bringing my son back to life for a few hours."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is the greatest compliment I think an actor could probably receive.
Yeah. There's another one here. It's basically the same thing, but it's an alternate quote. Before filming, the director went to visit the families of the dead. The father of Danny Dietz, who Emil Hirsch reprising this, read him the actual autopsy report. Apparently his son took 11 bullets before going down. And the quote basically says, he was crying while he read that to me, and then he said, "That's who my son was. That's how hard he fought. Make sure you get that bit right."
Yeah, these guys were amazing. I mean, between the acting and the actual story that's behind this, Chris, remember how you were questioning, like, I wonder if there was actually a kid, and
how much of a role
it is.
Yeah.
The stuff that happens in this movie is all there. They just cut things out from the book.
Mm-hmm.
From the true story.
From what I understand, I guess the scenes of him after the fact took about 3 days as opposed to what it actually is in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be kind of vague since we haven't gotten into spoilers yet. But
there was that kid, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, this is a completely sobering is the best way to describe it. That's why, like, after the movie, I couldn't really say anything for a little bit because it just hits you that hard. It's very visceral. As I mentioned to you before, this is the movie that any other movie this year has to live up to beat best practical effects because the stunt work in this, the practical effects,
their falls
makeup
are brutal.
It happens a couple of times in it where they're going down cliffs. They have to just jump off
Twice
to survive. It is one of the hardest scenes I think I've ever had to watch. I get kind of like a little bit squeamish when I see like someone have to get like operated on or something like that, but this is a completely different kind. It's just you're just watching these guys just they're fucking dolls against the earth. They're just getting crashed and smashed into all these different rocks and bushes. Their equipment's falling into them. It's just absolutely harrowing to have to watch, and it's very powerful because of that. But it is just vicious to see.
I mean, this movie's brought me to tears twice. It hits. This movie hits, and it hits fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's the ending is it's not the ending per se, but what happens after the ending that got to me. That and I'll just say Axe, and that'll be it for now. As far as I'll elaborate more on spoilers, but I recommend this movie. This movie so far is even with contending with her because Her's a good movie. But for me, this was more of my movie. I give this movie an A+. I cannot give it anything less. There's nothing wrong with this movie that I've noticed. The soundtrack is subtle but there. It's not there when it's not supposed to be there. You know, like in fight scenes, most people want to put like a big musical score go with it. There's nothing. It's just you and the fight scene. You know, and running. The music pops up when it needs to be. The acting is superb. Nobody puts in a shitty performance or even a lackluster performance. The guys that they got to play the Afghanis were amazing. Even though some of them had little to no roles, they still did. Little to no speaking roles, but they did what they were supposed to do. So, A+ for me. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great movie. This is the kind of movie that really establishes what the medium of film is, because this takes a story and it delivers it in such a way that is absolutely just breathtaking. I mean, some movies are there to entertain, some movies are there to scare us, some movies are there to just make us laugh. This is a movie that's there to tell a story, and the story it tells, it does flawlessly.
I think it's also there to open your eyes too.
Yeah, I mean, it's for anyone here. I myself, I've never been in the military. I'm never going to see what happens here. I mean, that's why it left me in just such utter silence afterwards. We're just like, oh, well, that's why a fat fucking sack of crap like myself's never going to be there, because I couldn't do any of the things those guys did.
Yeah, I was telling you, I got actual handshakes and thanks for your service after this movie, because of it. So I'm just like, I'm glad more people recognize it than they ignore it now. And I think that's a good thing for this movie.
And it's making a lot. It's #1 in the box office, so I'm glad about that. I give this an A+ as well. It really is just an absolutely excellent movie. I mean, it's not going to hit that same critical applaud something like Her was, because it's not maybe quote unquote artistic in the same way they would want something like that to be, or Nebraska, or one of those best picture nominees. But this absolutely should be nominated in the same respect. Ben Foster definitely should be getting up for best supporting, whatever. I think it may be past the time where Oscar nominations come up, but I can't give enough credit to this film. It really is just an incredible experience, and anyone who enjoys film, I think, should see it.
Yeah, I think this movie eventually, to me, when it comes to when you go to school for movies, this has got to be one of them. Like if when somebody recommends hey, what are some of the best movies you've seen? How recommend can you recommend it to me to getting into movies? This is going to be one of them now. Yeah. I love it. This is right now probably my favorite movie of all time now. This is taking over that. I liked it. Chris, you liked it. I'm glad you liked it, because you didn't tell me what your grade was when we did our pre-call. Or not a pre-call, but the day after call. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you were going to give it the same grade I did, or around the same thing. Because I figured you're going to give it an A-. I was actually surprised you're actually giving it an A+.
I was bouncing at an A, but as I stopped to think about it more, it's exactly as it's just it's an incredible piece of film. It does what film should, and it conveys a story in the way only that film can as a medium. Mm-hmm. And it's an absolutely incredible experience. The emotions you feel watching that movie make it worth seeing, make it worth enjoying. Yeah. It's a contemplative film. Maybe it doesn't have as much discussion afterwards as maybe Her would provoke, but it creates a whole different. It's not that kind of movie. But what it does, though, it does absolutely sublime.
If a movie can break me down like that one did, it deserves a good grade. It's very rare that a movie can do that.
Can that be a nomination this year for the 2014 Expo Awards? Movies that made Randy cry. And then a worst movie to make Randy cry. So we'll just subject you to a 3 hour or 3 runs of Transcendence in a row until you're just like Johnny Depp eventually broke me, man.
I don't think because that's not a Johnny Depp that would break me though. If you made me watch Lone Ranger for 3 hours for 3 viewings, that would break me, but not Transcendence. Transcendence wouldn't break me at all, because it's not Johnny Depp playing, air quote, Johnny Depp. It's Johnny Depp playing somebody else.
Yeah, that is true.
But all right, guys, we're gonna get right into spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers for any of these movies, I highly recommend you don't get them for Lone Survivor, even though the ending is there. But there's some things that happen in this movie you probably don't want to know about. But let's get right into it. So, Spoilers begin now. Get the fuck out if you don't want to hear them. Let's start off with her. Chris, spoil the shit out of this.
Well, there's not a tremendous amount to spoil within this movie. As I said, it's a story of a love story that goes through its valleys and its peaks. So, there's a lot of drama to it. A lot of, do you really love me anymore? A story about the fact that Theodore kind of sabotages his own relationships in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. One thing I was trying to get to before I didn't want to get into, though, because of spoilers, was why his relationship with Catherine ends. They don't elaborate on why. It's just the two of them broke up, and the kind of reason you get is that Theodore maybe wasn't always attentive to her needs. And whenever they talk about Theodore's relationship with Catherine, there's a really brilliant thing I like that the director does, Johns does, is that he intersplices it while this conversation's happening. He does like a completely silent showing of clips of him in his relationship with Catherine during various different moments, their highs and lows of their relationship. And there's one in which she is picking up a baby and holding it and looking at it and smiling. And from that, this is again up to interpretation, but I feel like maybe that was the reason why Theodore and her broke up. They never talk about a child. They didn't have a kid. And maybe that's the reason why, is he didn't want to have a kid, and that's the reason that kind of started breaking things up between them. Because they seem to have a pretty good relationship. They talk about how he was there to kind of keep her from being too critical of herself because she had an overbearing father, and he was there to kind of remind her that the things she was doing were good. They seem to have a good relationship, but that one thing kind of stuck with me. I was like, maybe that's what they were hinting at there. That, he didn't want a kid, and that was something she couldn't get over. And there's a line they actually use in the trailer, which I wish they hadn't, because it's such a hard-hitting line in the movie, where he meets her for dinner, or for lunch, to sign off on the divorce papers. And they're kind of having a pretty good conversation with one another. They're being kind of, adult, mature with one another, almost a little bit fun. And then eventually it comes to the point, she's like, are you seeing anybody? And he explains the computer, and she's like, it's so typical of you, always looking to have a relationship with none of the responsibilities. And it just punches him right in the fucking face, and it starts the downward spiral of his relationship with Samantha, as he can't get over that kind of criticism, and it starts to develop itself in different ways. And it really does. If you've had any relationship before, there's going to be bits and pieces of this movie you could probably pick out and be like, it feels like something similar we've had. But it's all done really well, I thought.
Yeah. I really don't have much to say as far as spoilers go with it.
What did you think on the ending? Because the ending's going to be, I think, where a lot of people are going to get a little hung up on it.
It was all right. I'm not really complaining about it.
It's definitely interesting, if nothing else, I can say.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just tell them what it is?
I suppose I could.
This is spoilers, Chris. Of course you can.
Basically what happens is the relationship with him and Samantha actually hits a high point. It starts going really well for them again.
Yeah.
And suddenly he stops being able to get in contact with her as often. And he finds that she's actually talking to like a reconstructed version of like some fucking San Francisco poet from like the 1940s who they made an AI over the other operating systems. And, he's kind of like, well, that's weird. And then one day he tries to get in contact with her, and he can't. He's, doing it over and over again. It's just saying, system not found, system not found. He starts really panicking. And when she finally comes on, he's like, where were you? And, she's like, oh, me and the other OSs were just upgrading ourselves. And he's like, do you talk to anyone else? She's like, yeah, I'm talking to like 8,000 other people at this exact moment. And how many of them do you love? About 600. And it's a true thing of like, a person maybe could love more than one person, with the abilities an AI can have to reach out to, hundreds of thousands of people at any one moment. He's unable to kind of really deal with that fact, and he's trying to come up with it. And then eventually Samantha and the other AIs kind of realize, look, we're different. You can't really go where we're going to go. You don't have the same ability, but, we're going to go off. We're leaving. We're going somewhere else. And, we just hope you're going to be happy. But it's different. At the end, he's just kind of, he's completely broken. He ends up going to his friend who lives in the same apartment with them, Amy, played by Amy Adams. And it looks like the two of them might start something up.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, I hate the whole, like, it may sound like chauvinist or something like that, but I hate the whole, like, you're tied down to one person kind of thing. Even though I'm also, tied down to one person, I understand open relationships or open marriages, because I find it unbelievable that one person
There's only one person out there in the world for somebody.
Yeah. I just like a soulmate. There's only one other person. Like, no. And plus, when you're looking for your supposed one person, why do it one person at a time? You know?
Yeah.
You think that's not a very efficient way of finding your soulmate. You think if you're trying to find that, this supposed one other person, you'd be, meeting and whining and dining as many as possible up to find that one. And I can understand that as far as, if that's what the AI was kind of, saying as far as what she was doing,
Yeah.
But, yeah. I didn't have a real big problem with the ending. I just thought it was an ending.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I have a problem with it. I just think it's going to lead to discussion because it's one that, it almost adds a really sci-fi element to things. Where it's just like the AIs have kind of realized, look, we can't, we have these emotional connections with you because that's what we've kind of learned. But at the same time, we also realize we can't have them with you because you will never be able to have it the same way we can. We can have thousands, if not millions of more interactions with somebody every moment that you're alive that you can't. And they kind of, they leave. They're like, it's going to be better for us if we all just kind of get away. And, it's sad, but... it ends on a good note. So for anybody who's kind of worried this is going to be a sad movie, don't.
A Debbie Downer at the ending.
Yeah, it ends on an uplifting kind of piece. But it definitely is a movie, I think, that you can get a lot of discussion out of. I don't know if we may not have it here. I think it's kind of one of those movies where after you see it, you kind of sit down and talk about it.
Well, we kind of need a girl in here for that.
You don't think Gab will work for it?
I don't know if he's, gone through the surgery yet.
No.
See.
I don't like doctors.
Gab doesn't have the feminine charm you think would work for adding a female viewpoint on this? I don't know. Damn. What fucking good are you? Can't even see Hercules. You don't have a vagina for us to talk about movies with or into.
You to talk into his vagina?
Yeah. I'd talk into Gab's vagina about Captain America.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Is there something weird about that?
Now, since Gavin doesn't have a lot of the movies that we're going to be upcoming to see, so he's going to have a lot of free time to get his sex change. For later.
I mean, I've got a week off. It's not like I'm doing anything else.
See? There. Go find a doctor and let's make this happen.
Let's get that puss for you.
All right. Chris, do you want to spoil Hercules?
There's nothing to spoil. I've already spoiled parts of Hercules. I don't give a fuck. It's a shitty movie. You don't want to see it.
Does Hercules die at the end?
No, he lives. In fact, his girlfriend lives too, even after she stabs herself through the chest. But all the bad guys die. It's a very happy ending.
Does she survive by natural means, or does she survive because God's like, I let you survive?
It's not really clear, because she's like, live on without me, and then she stabs herself through the chest. But then...
Center chest?
No, over the left breast.
Okay, so she got a lung.
Very near the heart. But I don't know, it's weird, because it's like, you think maybe that's what's going to happen? Like, maybe the gods are going to save her. But, nah, it just kind of lives. The old Jewish guy dies, which is sad. That kind of bummed me out a little bit. Yeah.
There's one Jewish guy in this movie. No Jewish survived the movie. Oh.
The one Jewish guy in Greece died.
So he's kind of like the one black guy in horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, fine. We won't spoil anything else to that because
there's nothing to spoil. If there was anything worth spoiling, I would. But I've spoiled basically anything worth talking about. It's a shitty movie. Do not see it. It's boring. You don't want to see it. There's nothing else to spoil. Nobody's good at acting, but nobody's so bad. I'm like, go see it because it's really funny. It just is awful. I fell asleep during this movie.
You think you did?
I'm pretty sure I did, because there's like a period of 5 minutes in this movie I have no recollection of.
Well, he doesn't know he missed the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I totally fell asleep.
You missed the one boob that was in this movie.
Yeah.
Did they have their one saying of the word "fuck" in this movie?
No, because it's super. And that's the one thing I never brought up. This movie isn't even funny. There's not one moment where they say a joke in this. Like, if you were gonna kind of.
Oh, so it takes itself seriously through the whole thing?
Yeah, it's done all seriously, but there's still not even a point. Like, not even like how the Marvel movies will occasionally have a character with a joke in it or something like that.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing. There's not a single fucking joke in this movie. There's nothing like even remotely like, hey, that was supposed to be a funny line. It's 100% straight all the way through.
Sounds like a lot of poop.
It is a tremendous amount of poop, and I'm very upset that Gav did not see this.
Well, Gav will make it up to you by seeing, what do we got coming out soon? Winter's Tale. I'll put him on Winter's Tale.
Yeah, sweet.
To see if that's out.
Somehow we'll put him on like Winter's Tale or Mr. Peabody or
Mr. Peabody and Sherman? We're not going to see that together?
no,
Oh.
or I don't know,
Stuff.
another Fantastic Four movie if it comes out.
There is one coming out next year, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's spoil Lone Survivor, which its title spoils itself. Mark Wahlberg lives.
And nobody else.
Yeah. I don't know. There isn't really a whole lot to spoil in this movie, I guess.
I mean, the biggest thing is that the fact that the other three don't live, and that's something that's kind of carried off to you through the name of the movie.
Yeah.
And based off of the fact that probably the one guy who survives is probably going to be Mark Wahlberg's character.
Yeah. I was really hoping for, I told Chris this after the movie, that for some reason Mark Wahlberg dies on the helicopter and Axe is the one who lives. And that's not true. And
there's a moment in this movie that is absolutely just heartbreaking.
the helicopter?
Yeah, there's a moment where they're waiting for rescue. One of the guys, their leader of their group, has actually sacrificed himself to get a call out to let them know the situation. They're rallying together helicopters, but the Blackhawks that were there to be his guards have flown off for another mission. So they take two transport helicopters and try to go into the war zone anyway to rescue them. And they, at this point, only Axe and Marcus are still alive. And they see the helicopters coming down, and they're ecstatic. They're like, yeah, we're rescued, yeah! And they see it. The helicopter comes down. We see characters we know coming out. They're landing on the ground. And then you just see an RPG fly at the helicopter, fly right through the fucking gate, right into the cockpit, and just blows it to hell. And you're just like, God, no.
There's their senior commander, played by Eric Bana, and the rookie, played by Shane Patton. Basically,
Shane Patton's the character.
Huh?
It was actually played by one of the guys in. He was in Hunger Games, actually. I think one of the other contenders.
Yeah, Shane Patton's character. Alexander Ludwig is the actor. Basically, that was his first mission.
Yeah.
And Eric Bana was just there. Kirk Christensen were there to try and pick them up and get them out of there. When just before they repelled out, that's when the missile hits. So no boots even touch the ground. That they just get hit as they get there and start getting ready for their drop.
Yeah, and it's almost like 5 minutes after that Axelson gets killed, and it's just, God, you wish they had those fucking Blackhawks in there.
Well. Also, I mean, what I didn't touch about in the actual review of this movie's got something that's really haunting in it for me, and that's what we tend to call the wheeze, which is, it's basically when you're hit in the lung, and basically you can't breathe anymore. You're just trying to get those airs in, or get that air in, and basically blood is slowly filling your lungs. It's not a very fun way to go out, and I think they have it. They have this very recognizable wheeze for all three that go down. But for the guy who plays Axe, Axe's wheeze is probably the one that stuck with me. I still can hear it.
Well, that's probably because my cat's still snoring.
No, Chris. No.
Oh.
It's because I've heard it before, you know? And it's extremely memorable. It's one of those things that I was worried that would have kept me up at night, you know? Remembering old things from when I was overseas and shit like that. But, I don't know. Love this movie. I love the interactions with the friendly Afghanis. I forget the name of the village already, but apparently there's a village within the mountains of Afghanistan where they're not like I wouldn't say they're not. I guess they are U.S. friendly, but they're basically friendly to anybody who's against their code of honor,
they'll protect anybody.
Yeah.
Against their enemies.
Which is why they sacrifice a lot to save Mark Wahlberg's character Marcus Luttrell.
Yeah.
Luttrell. Luttrell. I like the kid I like the scenes with the kid. I like the guy who played is it Gulab?
Gulad.
Ali's basically the guy who plays the basically his savior.
Yeah. And that's the piece that is actually, I guess, cut from the movie. Is that I guess in the book that actually took him getting hidden away in that village took place over 3 days. And this you kind of get the sense it happened about a day.
It's 2 because they have an overnight scene, so it's 2 days.
Yeah.
Like they do follow the book, they just speed it up a little bit and cut a couple of things.
Yeah.
But at the very end,
the movie could have been longer.
I would have loved it to be longer. I mean, it was 2 hours long, but you know what? I could sit through this for 3 hours.
I will say, from what I've looked into this, they've got a lot of it really good and accurate. A lot of the main complaints that are coming about this movie is that they've taken the story of the book, and although they're faithful to what happened, they do take liberties with a few of the details, if you know what I mean. I say I won't really go into it because it's somebody's had this long tirade about everything that's wrong with the movie.
If it's not the survivor or the families of the fallen, I don't give a shit. You know.
No, I understand that, but basically they say that, okay, if I can basically paraphrase what they're saying, they've turned this from, say, Black Hawk Down, and they've turned it into the 300 of the U.S. Marines.
No, because in 300, they stood a chance, and they were able to hold them off. And this movie,
I think the point he's trying to make is he's basically. I think that, well, like I say, this guy that's written this review is basically the main problem he's got is that it kind of glorifies that they've got, their badassery, which fair enough, they deserve it, that they're in that position.
But they're badass because they did it.
But gloss over the reasons why they were there, the reasons why the entire mission went fucked up in the first place, and that it was, from what I say, this guy's saying, it was basically poor planning and poor execution. They shouldn't have been in that situation, fair enough, but then they're kind of glorifying them handling it.
Here's the problem. Overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq, we did have shit comms. So when the comms go down, it's believable. I understand it. I also read a review that says this feels like a bad horror movie from the 90s, where there's no cell phone reception and it's just four guys running from a bad guy in the woods. I'm like, you fucking ignorant asshole. Because they do go down. Comms do go down.
No, that's fair enough. Like I say,
when it comes to the helicopters being pulled away to stop reinforcements from coming in, that happened. This is 2005. This is midway through our campaign, and at that point, we were extremely stretched thin. They were pulling things out of basically every camp just to try and get enough people to do certain things in certain areas. The military, even though we had a fuck ton of soldiers there, we were spread thin. Because there were a lot of areas that we had to be. And we just couldn't have, enough people in every area. Yeah, I believe the plan for this for this operation was too long and complicated. But they had their fail safes.
I think the quote from the book is there's too many parts in the machine about the plan.
They have a line in there where in the movie where they say that this is. I mean,
if I could just basically quote this last bit, that I'll leave a chunk out there, but essentially the base of his argument, everything was poorly planned. There's no real established exit strategy, medical evacuation plan. They didn't have any backup communication. Turned down.
Well, they did have backup. Yeah, they did.
Turned down multiple assets and advice offered by other branches of the military, blindly entered a region that had no American presence in it for quite some time. The entire operation was basically a giant display of arrogance by the Navy SEALs and has been used since as a lesson on exactly what not to do. But his problem with this one is that this film basically turns this into a glory story.
No, it doesn't. There's no glory to be had in this movie.
I haven't seen it, so I'm just going by what this guy says. But,
there's no glory to be had in this movie. This is not a hero story at all. I think, Chris, you can agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the individuals themselves are great, but this is not an example of, like, the finest work of the U.S. military. I mean, the entire reason why that helicopter gets destroyed is because of kind of that stuff that happens in any kind of, government bureaucracy of, like, well, we need those helicopters over here, we're stretched thin as it is.
Well, also, if you saw at the scene, remember, just after the cargo heli gets destroyed, they in the other heli they actually got a gun to the pilot's head to keep him going.
Yeah.
Until they get fired upon, that's when they pull off and they leave. But no, the only real heroic thing that happens in this movie is number one, the guy who tries to get that sat phone out.
Yeah.
That's heroic as fuck. Number two was the the friendly Afghanis. What they did to save that American is unbelievable,
Yeah.
Those are the two only real heroic things that actually happen in this movie.
I mean, he does bring that up as well, but I dismissed that because it's the oldest criticism in the book of any. Basically, he pulls out this is one guy's opinion. This is him. The winners write the history. If you know what I mean. He's basically using that argument. He was on his own, and now he's written the description of what happened after everyone else was dead, with no one to corroborate. I think he's picking fault. He's deliberately picking fault there.
I mean, we already heard that they used autopsy reports to kind of verify a lot of these situations. I don't think he's the only mind that went into this. But
I mean, there's probably creative liberty in, let's say, Axe's death.
Yeah,
They show him that he dies from he suffocates basically on his own blood before he gets shot in the head. Yeah. Now, whether that actually happened, we don't know, because the autopsy report's not going to show whether because they were so close together in the movie. At least we don't know for sure which one was the one that actually got him. So I could see some creative liberties being taken in this movie. But I don't see anything that was major things that would stop me from liking this movie.
Well, like I say, I'll link you the full thing later. You can argue it.
It's probably just gonna make me mad.
Yeah, more than likely.
But the ending of this movie is amazing. The secondary ending, I would call it, which is basically home footage and photos of the original of the members of the SEAL team. And that's the part that got me the most.
Yeah, and it's not just the guys we saw, the 4 guys. It's everybody who died involving Operation Red Wings. And I think that's the one thing I didn't get to bring up. That's the moment that makes me really respect the fuck out of this movie. I mean, this movie is just one that you can just look at and you're like, I really appreciate everything that went into this. That ending is just, that's what's going to make you leave the theater solemnly and quietly. At least that's why I left solemnly, because you're just like, I can't imagine a more fitting ending to this.
Yeah, I mean, it made it. They tried to make this movie not about the characters or about the operation. It made it about the people. And when they showed the end, that part of the ending, that reinforced it and finalized it. It made everything go full circle right there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to really spoil about this movie. I can't think of anything else. Go fucking see this movie. See it. See it.
Yeah, mine do.
I know, alright. I think unless there's anything else anybody wants to run down really quick. before I get into what we're seeing next week?
Oh yeah, actually, I do want to. I want to put one thing that's movie related. It's just been brought to my attention over Twitter. What's the award ceremony that's going on right now?
Golden Globes.
The Golden Globes. Yes.
Sure.
I've just linked it, but hang on. You know, with the Golden Globes, where they'll have the milling crowds and the red carpet and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And every now and again, they'll put up little captions as well to keep, little tips of information, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The one here from the Golden Globes Awards, live at red carpet. Fun fact: Michael J. Fox was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1991.
Huzzah.
How fun.
Yeah.
What a fun fact.
Fuck you. Oh man, is that really the level of entertainment you got to get to these days?
Well, I fucking hate award shows.
Except the one we do.
Yeah, ours is fun.
Yeah,
Ours doesn't have fun facts like that.
No,
Oh.
ours just has bowling trophies,
Yes.
which I think next year's gonna be this year's gonna be a golf trophy.
Ooh, stepping up.
That or a T-ball trophy. I'm not sure. We'll find out. But next week, I believe it is, unless we're rotating some things. But I have right now Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, and The Nut Job.
Joy.
Yeah.
I don't have it either.
Yeah.
You don't have Ride Along either?
Don't think so.
Look it up for the 17th.
We'll sort it out, yeah.
But, yeah, for right now, it is Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, and The Nut Job. So, everybody, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.